when you're in this suborbital, this without gravity, you can make a more pure substance. They just made a.
I hear the heroin's off the charts. Out there. I mean, literally, like.
All right, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. And we are super excited we have another guest on today. Before we get into that, we also just relaunched the St. Louis acquisition. It is a kind of a big box retail deal with a pad site out front that we hope to spin off. The big box retailers are Michaels and Ulta and Petco, and then a brand new 10-year lease on American Freight. And it's actually right next door to a Target and an Aldi, which are amazing retailers. So we launched that out today. We have commitments coming in. We're going to close on that the first week of June.
It's got the Chipotle, great performing Chipotle, great performing Panda, all with a lot of lease term. So we're excited about that deal. And we closed June 5th.
June 5th.
Yeah, so not a lot of time, and we're already starting to fill up on the investment. So
yeah.
But yeah, let me introduce our guest, Matt Pinnell. Many of you may know, Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Oklahoma, where we spent most of our lives. And Matt and I go way back, went to high school and college together, and have been friends for years, and I'm excited to have him on the show. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me. Actually, I watched this, listened to this.
That's good.
And I'm not just saying that as a politician.
So you're the one.
I really do. Yeah.
You're the one.
I'm the one.
Okay, we finally won.
Yeah. I've shared this with some people. You actually learned something listening to you guys. So that's
good.
That's a change.
Well, today
Matt might be the most famous guest we've had. It's either him or the guy that
the leisure suit guy. The leisure suit guy may have him.
If you haven't seen the episode of the guy
Jerry Rosenthal,
the guy invented the leisure suit. You need to watch that. He seems like a super interesting guy. I was super skeptical when we were going to have him on, but when I got to talking to him, I'm like, I want to spend the weekend with this guy and learn some stuff.
That's a good one. Okay.
I want to buy a leisure suit.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back.
But today, Matt, you may not learn much, but I think we are going to learn a lot, and our guests are going to learn a lot. But I thought it would be interesting to have him on because a lot of our listeners are here in the state of Oklahoma, and kind of business of Oklahoma is your business.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to try to come up with some interesting questions, and hopefully the people can learn a little bit about what is going on in the state of Oklahoma. As we've said before, we don't want to always be a flyover state. We want to be impactful in some way.
Yeah.
So, Matt, tell us, if you can, I'm sure you have some general ideas. What are some of the highlights economically that are going on in Oklahoma?
Sure. Well, so from a 30,000 foot view, what's really fun is how many people are interested in Oklahoma today. So we have employees at the Department of Commerce. So I work a lot with our Department of Commerce, and we have employees there that said, listen, we've never had this much interest, people proactively calling the state of Oklahoma. And what a lot of that is this net migration to the middle of the country that is actually happening. So it doesn't mean it's just happening in Oklahoma. It's happening in Arkansas. It's happening in Kansas. It's definitely happening down to the state to the south of us, Texas.
You hear about that, and so that really is.
It's
happening,
really
huh?
happening, okay. and so it's not just us preaching about it. I mean, the census migration data that we recently got prove it. So a couple months ago, this data came out. So between June of 2022 to July of 2023, Oklahoma was number 9 in the country in net migration growth. So people leaving the state versus people moving to the state. We were number 9 in the country, which is quite top 10, which is quite the flex for a state of our size. But what's even cooler, particularly I would think for your listeners, more Texans moved to Oklahoma during that time period than Oklahomans that moved to Texas.
The sucking sound that's going to the south is slowing down.
It is slowing down. And that really is the way to describe it. It's not, it's slowing down. I mean, Texas is still recruiting a lot of people. Dallas will be the 3rd largest city in America in less than 2 years.
Really?
So it's going to be larger.
I had no idea.
It'll be larger than Chicago in less than 3 years. And so, but we're using that to our advantage. We're saying, listen, Dallas is full. So all of these, young talent, young families, that are tired of traffic, can't afford a house in the urban core. We have a campaign targeted at them to try to get them back to Oklahoma. A lot of that's baby boomer growth, of that net migration growth, but a lot of it's young families too. I mean, Tulsa, as you guys know, we have this Tulsa remote program that has been very, very popular. It's not just George Kaiser paying people $10,000 to move here. They all have a lot of money, most of these people that have moved to the city, but then they stay here. I mean, well over 1,000, could be more than that. But we're building upon that. And now that Oklahoma actually is a state that people are given a look at, it's really helping Tulsa and Oklahoma City and other areas around the state that we can certainly get into grow. I mean, Oklahoma City is the 20th largest city in America today. Tulsa, well over 1 million people inside the core of the city now. So we have a really good workforce. So we're on to something as a state.
So that increase in population, does that help us recruit businesses to move here because now they have more talent to
100%. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to is do you have a workforce that a lot of these companies are looking for when they come calling? So when Oklahoma City can say they're the 20th largest city in America, that's telling companies, okay, there's actually people here. You know, we've lost some deals to Dallas and Austin, mostly because there's millions of more people that they can pull from. But now that Oklahoma is growing, we're getting a much more aggressive, much more serious look because the quality of life's better. And then on top of that, there's an actual talented workforce that you can pull from. We're able to deliver and we're able to pull in more companies. And over the last couple of years, we've done that. We've proven, nice. Our Department of Commerce has proven it, that we can pull in people that are not just in the oil and gas industry, which is the other big story.
This is why Oklahoma City can build the largest building in the U.S.
That's right.
Right?
They can permit that building.
Yeah. They can permit it. Yeah. So that's right. We'll see where that goes. But
I give it
Oklahoma
a low
City,
chance.
Oklahoma City.
And the Disney.
And the Disney Amusement Park.
Hey, they can permit that.
They can permit that as well. We'll see if that ends up coming, but I'm glad that we have some storylines of development projects that could become real.
Hey, being in real estate is really important. Population growth is a really important part. You need new apartments.
Yes.
And then once you get more apartments and more housing, you need retail and you need office. And so for our business, I mean, obviously we buy around the country, but for people that want to, be in real estate in Oklahoma, it's super important that we have that population growth.
Yeah. And it like I said, it's happening. We just have to be ready when they come calling. We got to be ready when those companies come calling. And I firmly believe over this next decade, you're going to see real impressive growth inside the state of Oklahoma. There's just too many people that are leaving the coasts, too many people leaving states, remote working environment that's not completely going to go away. Oklahoma is very attractive for those type of individuals. And again, the numbers prove it.
It's funny. I take Ubers whenever I'm going to drink and I'm going to be out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll ask them, hey, where are you from? And they're like, I moved from California.
Yep.
I moved from Arizona. Why? Well, I had some friends that lived in Tulsa and they said I could get a big house. They said I could have land.
Yeah.
Even my electrician that's putting in the Cybertruck charging port at my house, he's an electrician, but just moved from California during COVID.
Yeah.
So he started his own business out here because it was easier. So
other than the cost of living, what does Oklahoma have to offer these people?
So, affordability.
What's attractive to them?
Sure. affordability, just from an energy perspective, we're number one or number two when it comes to energy affordability. So 40% of our electricity now is off renewables in the state too, that most people have no idea about.
I wouldn't know that.
We're traditionally an oil and gas state, and we will continue to be. But
does that make you want to drive an electric car, knowing we have the cheapest energy in the country?
We got cheap energy. I don't know. Maybe that's not completely the pitch that, but where the pitch is, a manufacturing company, right, that needs to move somewhere in America, and they need a big, warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
They care.
Yeah.
Because heating and air, that thing.
Heating and air. And a Google, for example. So Google is in the Pryor area. If you haven't been to Pryor, you got to go see what the Mid-America Industrial Park. It's the 8th largest industrial park in the country. So it's one of the best mega sites in the country. Well, Google's there, and Google's all about renewables. I mean, some of the and I was a little naive to that. The companies, these big mega projects that we're talking to now that we've never really been in a room with before, they do care about that. That's built into their company's mission statement.
Yeah, culture.
The culture, the mission statement, and you can either like it or not, but it is a reality when it comes to a lot of these larger companies that they want to make sure that they're able to prove to their shareholders and the world for their PR machines that they're operating off renewables. So we're the Saudi Arabia of wind.
Yeah.
Oklahoma is.
So most of those
it's not just natural gas, it's wind as well.
So most of the renewables are wind in Oklahoma.
Most of it's wind. The large majority of that is wind. We've got a little bit of solar. I think we could do a whole lot more solar in Oklahoma, frankly. And we're getting a little bit more into that. But wind is a big deal in Oklahoma today. We got it. We might as well leverage it.
Yeah.
Play to your strengths as a state, and it's really helped Western Oklahoma in particular.
I've been out and seen that wind farm, man.
Oh,
it's massive.
And so we have a whole lot more of that coming online. Natural gas has been a huge win for us the last couple of years as well, but the renewable piece. So that's one. I would say, again, drive times, we lean heavily
It's a big
into
one
that.
for me, guys. Having lived in a really big city overseas, my drive time was like an hour and a half in traffic each way, and I hated every second of that drive.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can be anywhere in Tulsa in 20 minutes is an awesome perk.
Buying a home certainly is a huge deal. And these Tulsa remote folks that have relocated, what I don't think can be discounted, they want to make a difference. So these younger generations, they want to change the world, and they can be involved day one in Tulsa. Like they can join the chamber, they can join the Rotary, they can immediately get involved in the community. You can't do that in Dallas. It may take you 10 years to be on a board, at their chamber. But in Tulsa, you can get involved right now. Oklahoma City, involved today. And I, again, was a little naive to that piece that, individuals that make a lot of money that can live anywhere in the world, they love Oklahoma because we are friendly and you can be involved. And that shouldn't be discounted. And these large Kansas Cities and the St. Louis's and the Houstons and Dallas, it's more difficult when you're a top 5 city in America to immediately be involved and to make a difference. And so we've used that a lot as well. And it's helped us pull in more entrepreneurs. Big businesses might not be as concerned with that, but they should be concerned keeping their employees happy. Yeah. And their employees are not going to be happy if they're driving a couple hours to work. Yeah.
How business friendly is Oklahoma compared to the rest of the nation, would you say, in terms of tax incentives or whatever?
I would say very competitive. We do have an income tax, so there are certainly some states, Texas has used that to their advantage, but they're getting their taxes from somewhere. We remind people of that. I don't want to pay Texas property taxes. Yeah, right. So, but we do have an income tax, but it's very competitive income tax. Our property taxes are very low. It depends upon city to city as far as how, quote, pro-business they are, but we've never heard anything other than, hey, it was a whole lot easier to do business in Oklahoma than California or Colorado or some of these other states that are a little bit more restrictive.
Yeah. Good. So you mentioned prior, but if you had to pick a top 3 or 4 locations around the state that are kind of really driving a lot of economic growth, maybe give us some of the highlights.
Yeah, outside of Tulsa and Oklahoma City, because again, those are going to continue to be our economic drivers. And I love what both of those cities are doing right now because they're both investing in themselves. So Oklahoma City has their MAPS program.
Yeah, huge.
And if you don't know about the MAPS program, that is a best practice economic development program that a lot of other cities are trying to copy. Oklahoma City literally rebuilt itself over the last 25 years.
I think that MAPS program, if you go back 10, 15 years, 20 years ago when they implemented it, is what really kickstarted Oklahoma City ahead of Tulsa.
Absolutely.
And we're doing great, but we're trying to catch them now.
Well, Tulsa's just now putting water in the river. We finally got our act together to get water in the river.
Talked about that for 50 years.
Truly we have.
Yeah.
So
hey,
Tulsa,
the first one's opening up. It looks great. I'm excited about it. Yeah. We did get our crap together eventually.
The skyline with that water in the river looks really cool.
And the development, it's going to spur along the river now because it's a beautiful place to be instead of a sand pit.
Correct.
Will be huge for the city. It'll be like the BOK Center in downtown. Downtown was a pit. The BOK Center goes in. Now there's over $1 billion private development. They're going to do that same study on the river in a decade from now, and it's going to be that same thing.
Agree. And so I give the city a lot of credit there. So outside of those two, and from a tourism perspective, they've really leaned into events, which is very, very important. Sports teams, everything else. Outside of those two areas, Lawton, So every time I go to Lawton, I say how Lawton needs to be mentioned in the same sentence as Tulsa and Oklahoma City again. It used to be, quote, back in the day. Lawton is growing again because of aerospace. And for us as a state, we protected all of these military bases in Oklahoma over the last multiple decades. And Senator Inhofe deserves a lot of credit there because he served on the Armed Forces Committee in D.C. and protected a couple of our military bases from BRAC shutdowns. And, a lot of that's kind of in the weeds, but that really has led the Boeings and Lockheed Martins and others. They want to be in Oklahoma because they want those federal contracts. They're smart. And so Oklahoma City, one of the reasons they're the 20th largest city in America is because Boeing and Lockheed Martin and all these other companies want business at Tinker Air Force Base, which is one of the largest military bases in the country. And so based upon that growth, now we have a space industry in Oklahoma that's growing in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So aerospace is the number 2 industry in the state of Oklahoma. Well over a $45 billion economic impact. Really big. Could be the number 1 industry in our state within a decade, our aerospace industry.
Is the majority of that government contract stuff, or
half and half?
Okay.
So drone technology is growing. It's still a small portion of it, but that's growing. We have a spaceport outside of Elk City, one of only 12 spaceports in America where you can actually fire a space shuttle in outer space. Most people don't realize that.
Wow.
It's the second longest runway in the world. It's outside of Elk City, Oklahoma, right? Who knew? But
I wonder if you can drag race cars on the second longest runway in the world.
I'm sure you could for a price. But so that's really cool to see. About half the companies that we're talking to on any given month, it's aerospace and defense industry growth. I went to a big space symposium in Colorado Springs a couple weeks ago. It'll blow your mind. I mean, making pharmaceuticals in outer space is kind of like where all of this is going. It's the craziest. And it's all these startup companies. So I asked that same question because of the purity. So when you're in gravity, I can't believe we're talking about this on our podcast.
That's why it's interesting.
But it's interesting, right? Making a pharmaceutical in outer space that when you're in this suborbital, this without gravity, you can make a more pure substance. They just made a...
I hear the heroin's off the charts.
Yeah,
out there. I mean, literally, like nothing at all gets you super
They
high.
did the first meniscus last month. One of these startup companies in like suborbitals. It's the craziest stuff. And so now you have these startup pharmaceutical companies working with these space entrepreneurs.
I love it.
It'll blow you. I love it, right? I love it. And so I'm not talking about exploring the moon anymore. We're talking about other cool stuff. And they're looking for places to build manufacturing operations here to where then they can fire these space shuttles off to get 5 or 6 minutes or 10 minutes of not having gravity. So I only know enough to be dangerous because we're just kind of starting to talk to those companies. But Jim Bridenstine, you may know that name. I met Jim, the NASA administrator. He's back in Oklahoma. And I felt like I was walking around with Michael Jordan at an all-star game, walking around with the former NASA administrator at a space symposium. He was like the rock star. And so he's getting us in with all these meetings. And
way to go, Jim.
Way to go, Jim. And so that was a very productive couple of days. Hopefully it will lead to a few things. We were just with one of the companies that wants to be here in Tulsa down around the airport. And they want to build engines. I mean, we still build that engines in Oklahoma. We're a maintenance repair state. So they call it MRO. We're a big MRO state. The largest maintenance repair facility in the world is 30 minutes from right here. The American Airlines facility. Yeah.
Wow.
It's the largest employer in the city of Tulsa still. And, again, most people don't know that. Like, we build widgets, we build things, we fix rockets, we fix engines, and that is the bread and butter of what we will continue to do. But I hope we also can, start firing, space shuttles up to build pharmaceuticals. But I went on a tangent there. But those are the two, Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Ardmore and Durant. Those are two communities that are an hour from Dallas. So, let's not overcomplicate this. Those two communities, but they both say they're kind of the front door to Dallas because they are. Both those communities are in sovereign Indian nations as well. That's a whole other part of our story that is a big advantage that we have, is we have all these tribes now that are very diversified. They have more money than most anybody else. I mean, this will put it in perspective. The 5 largest Indian tribes in Oklahoma today have a larger fiscal budget than the state of Oklahoma, if you combine those 5 tribes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is awesome. When we were growing up in Oklahoma, they were operating bingo halls, and they did
cigarette counters.
Yeah, they didn't have money. They got money today, and they're being smart with that money. So they're getting very diversified, and we should work with them. I mean, Cherokee Nation is building a $500 million hospital in Tahlequah that will rival anything in the state. They're building roads and bridges. They're investing in entrepreneurs, but the Ardmore and Durant area, both, Ardmore is Chickasaw Nation, Durant is Choctaw Nation. Those are the two most wealthy tribes in the state, along with the Cherokees. And they're North Texas and Oklahoma are just growing into each other. And we're either going to take advantage of this or we're not. I mean, because all the cranes in the air in Texas are in Sherman and Anna, Texas now. They're not even in Dallas. Mm-hmm. The Taiwanese chip manufacturing company that largest deal in state history of the state of Texas wasn't Dallas. They're building that facility outside of Sherman. And so you'll have a lot of Oklahomans that will work at that facility, I have no doubt. But we want that on our side of the invisible line as well. So those
eventually it's going to grow across the state line.
It will.
Like, hey, you have an hour commute to Dallas. Why not go 15 minutes more and double the size of your house and get some land?
No doubt. Really. There's a lot of people that would love to live in Durant but can't because there's no homes available, which is a whole other part of, the
U.S. in whole.
That's right. And Oklahoma has those same growing pains when it comes to we don't have enough single family homes available or affordable housing. And that's something we're aggressively working on at the legislature. We created a 0% interest construction loan program for developers because most of these small communities...
need to know about
That's
this.
The one that we were talking about the other day.
Oklahoma Housing Stability Act.
Oklahoma Housing Stability.
It just launched.
Joel's a pro on it now, all of a sudden.
Not a pro.
I was just aware of it.
Loans. I was just aware of it.
Yeah,
I think you can do up to 4 units or something.
75% of the money has to be spent in what we define as rural Oklahoma, and I don't know how many people we're talking about, but most of the communities that we just talked about would probably be defined as rural because we can't lure a developer to develop in a lot of these smaller communities because they can't make money.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, let's fix that. And so we've had enough people tell the legislature to where the legislature said, you know what, maybe it's time for us to do something about this. So there's a couple $100 million that we've pooled. It just launched. So we're going to developers saying, tell us will this be helpful? Mm-hmm. Most of them say yeah in certain areas. And we hope that will fuel some development outside of the Tulsa and Oklahoma City area and frankly in this area as well. But most of that money has to be spent in rural Oklahoma.
So we're getting to the point where we'll try to wrap it up. We have people listening. Maybe they're intrigued. Maybe they want to find out more. Is there resources or a website or maybe your office? Where should they go to find out more about what's going on in Oklahoma and how they can be part of it?
Yeah, I mean, our Oklahoma Department of Commerce is where we house page upon pages and pages of what the state offers from an incentive perspective, because we have some very competitive incentives, Quality Jobs Act and, again, the Oklahoma Housing Stability Act. I mean, there's 10 to 15 different incentives that are kind of our main incentives that we offer to companies that are looking to relocate to Oklahoma. We offer some incentives to existing businesses in Oklahoma as well. But that's what I would tell you is go to okcommerce.gov. You can Google it as well. It's our Oklahoma Department of Commerce. Okay. That's kind of a central clearinghouse for whether you're a developer, whether you're a company looking to grow in Oklahoma or move to Oklahoma. And from a tourism perspective, it's travelok.com. I always mention that because tourism is the front door to economic development. I truly believe that. Oklahoma has more of an authentic tourism experience than I think any other state in the country.
It's authentic, that's for sure.
It is authentic. From Black Wall Street to Cowboys and Indians and Chisholm Trail. Like, we got a very colorful history.
Yeah.
if we tell that history, and we're going to tell that history, people are completely fascinated by Oklahoma. They can't believe our story. Mm-hmm. And if we tell that story, it's going to have a whole lot more people show up, and then they leave and they look, to their family members, hey, this is a whole lot better than Kansas City. This is a whole lot better than Dallas. Maybe we should move there. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I call it the front door to economic development. So those are the two websites that we send people to.
Good.
It's crazy how big you can get, because I went on the Art Deco architecture tour of downtown Tulsa and learned so much because we were this big, roaring, almost international city in the 20s and
the oil capital of the world
and the movie capital of the world. And that was a big deal. And then it so easily fades and is forgotten. Yeah. But still, just the architecture of some of the office buildings downtown in Tulsa
it's unmatched.
Is stunning. And you don't find that a lot of places. No. And we've had the majority of them torn down, and we still have some of the most remaining. It's really cool. I have a question. Out of everything kind of happening in Oklahoma, and I know there may be some stuff that's still speculative, obviously, but what are you most excited about that you know of or have heard of, or what's just something really awesome?
I mentioned the aerospace excitement, and maybe that's not real sexy, but
super interesting.
It is
really cool.
There's 3 or 4 companies that I can't talk about because we can't publicly talk about them, but there's 2 or 3 very exciting companies that we're talking to kind of in that aerospace industry space that we hope to be in front of a podium announcing within, fairly soon. From a development perspective, a lot of that's still kind of in the Tulsa and Oklahoma City area. A number of tourism attractions that Oklahoma City again and the Tulsa area. I love the Tulsa Sound movement in downtown Tulsa. Oklahoma City's building an indoor water park. Yes, that's a big deal for our state. You don't have to do Great Wolf Lodge in Dallas anymore. So it does matter to me. There's some downtown development, yes, in Oklahoma City and Tulsa that I'm excited about. There's a downtown data center that Tulsa is about to announce that's pretty exciting with a very big name attached to it.
I got one that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
It's the youngest team in NBA history to be a number 1 seed.
Yeah.
That's what excites me.
That big league city.
It is pretty exciting.
We really need to win tomorrow and Monday.
Take it to a game 7.
For sure.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it's a good thing that there's not just one, big development. Yes, there's a lot of palace intrigue about a downtown Oklahoma City, very tall building, or a new amusement park in Northeast Oklahoma. We'll see if those projects come to fruition. But for me, it's much more diversifying our economy because we ride these waves in Oklahoma based upon oil and gas. And we can't do that anymore. If we continue to do that, we're going to have some good years, and then in the bad years, we cut state government. And so it's been very exciting over the last 5 years for me to see, I'm not talking to your traditional oil and gas company most of the time anymore. I want that 365, 24/7. I'm talking to aerospace companies or defense industry companies. That's what's exciting to me, because long term, that's how we have a healthy state.
Yeah,
is to get much more diversified when it comes to our economy.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I love it. Matt, you've been an awesome lieutenant governor.
Thank you,
everybody hopes that you think about taking the next step.
Yeah.
And if you do, we'll announce it here on the podcast.
Yeah,
President?
Yep.
Well,
my mic's cutting
with the
out.
choices we have this year, I think it'd be great. But no, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully it was interesting to everybody listening about everything that's going on in our state. And check out the websites that he mentioned. Anything else, Braden?
No, I'm going to check out Pure Pharmaceuticals in Space.
Come on.
Yeah.
I bet you are.
We're getting blasted on the own podcast.
All right, guys. Until next time on How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.